So I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the two main types of alternative dispute resolution. Sometimes they call it ADR. And the reason why you might do this. The main reason you might try to find a reason other than court to, or not a reason, but a place other than court to solve your differences is that going to court is very expensive. Even when you win a case, you're often a loser in the sense that you have spent tons and tons of money to defend yourself or maybe to win some monetary damages. And a big chunk of that money will go to attorney's fees and other things. So most businesses have a desire to settle things outside of court. Another big advantage to using ADR is that it can stay private, meaning if I can get together with my adversary, with the person I have a disagreement with, and we can settle the situation outside of court, we can make agreements to not disclose the amounts paid or the topics we discussed. This becomes very important when we're trying to protect our reputation. We don't want the rest of the world thinking that we are terrible business owners and that we do terrible things. So it can be very valuable to keep things private. So the two main types of alternative dispute resolution are arbitration and mediation. And really what you need to know is the difference between arbitration and mediation is just that arbitration involves an arbitrator, and that's a person who listens to both sides and then renders a verdict or a decision, and actually decides the outcome of the case, as opposed to mediation, where there's no decision made. A mediator's job is simply to work together with both parties to help them find a solution that everybody can agree with. So arbitration involves making a decision, and mediation involves no decision, but working together to maybe help the individual parties to make a decision together. A couple subcategories of arbitration. One is what's called binding arbitration, meaning that the parties involved sign a contract agreeing that whatever the arbitrator says, that they will abide by. And this is important because if you agree to binding arbitration, then you're stuck with what that arbitrator says, even if you don't like it. And the courts have consistently upheld the validity of binding arbitration contracts. In other words, if you agree that you'll go to arbitration and that it will be binding, then it's very hard for you to get out of that unless you can prove somehow that there was fraud or something on the part of the arbitrator. And then non-binding arbitration is just what it sounds like, where you meet with an arbitrator who renders a decision, but nobody's bound by it. A lot of times people will do this so that they can get an idea of how their case might fare in court, because the arbitrator is usually an attorney or an ex-judge or somebody who has experience in these matters. And so if you lose an arbitration hearing, even if it was non-binding, you might feel encouraged to find another solution to your problem because your chances of winning in court are not great. And then I just put at the bottom there, there are a number of other hybrid alternative dispute resolution schemes. And what I mean by hybrid is there's some form of arbitration or mediation or even something called med-arb, which in essence starts as a mediation where they're trying to move everybody toward a single decision making or a decision that will benefit both sides. And then in the absence of coming up with that decision together, then it shifts into an arbitration where the arbitrator will actually make a decision. Anyway, again, if you ever are involved in a legal dispute, you will understand why people try to use ADR. Also, you should recognize that you're probably already a party to a number of binding arbitration contracts. Pretty much if you own a cell phone and you've signed with a carrier, in that paperwork you probably signed a binding arbitration contract, meaning you would agree to go to a binding arbitration before going to court. Probably if you, just about any contract, if you have cable, if you have any sort of a contract with a bank on a mortgage or other accounts, then you've agreed, whether or not you read the fine print that said you did, but you've agreed to binding arbitration. So this is something that affects all of us, just recognizing that the intent is to keep us out of court if possible, and to recognize that that most of us are a party to some of these contracts already.